Western officials have confirmed their fears that Russia is at war against NATO and the West, admitting that the Kremlin's attack is at a different stage following the West's decision to increase the number of tanks and drones that are deployed to Ukraine.
Now, it comes as the UN accused Russia overnight of breaching rules around child protection by apparently giving Russian passports to unaccompanied child refugees.
So here to tell us why the Russian front shouldn't be underestimated is the former NATO commander, Rear Admiral Parry. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, everybody.
I read a statement this week which said that it was felt that the penny had finally dropped in the West, that what Ukraine actually needs is modern heavy armour to stamp out the Russians. I mean, I don't know if you would back that up, but what it suggests is that, in fact, some of the people that have been advising Western governments they've been a bit asleep at the wheel by underestimating exactly what Ukraine is taking on here.
I think people have been sidelined by the fact that Ukraine have done pretty well up until now. And I also think there's a fear of escalation. And I think we're seeing some of that rhetoric flying around now in both cases. Ukraine's doing well. And Russia now is saying, look, we're functionally at war with the West. Of course, again, it's rhetoric. We're not at war. It's not war as we know it. We're in strategic competition with Russia. There's no question about that. And we're trying to preserve Ukraine's freedom. It's no good Russia trying to ramp up all the propaganda and say we're at war. If we were at war, Russia would be defeated in Ukraine. It's as simple as that.
And yet there is this concern that, I mean, to use the phrase of some Western officials, that the attack is now or will become at a different stage. Russia is preparing to up the ante. I mean, is that a real fear?
Well, my fear is that Russia is better prepared this time around than people think. They didn't do very well last year on the battlefield, but they're replenishing their munitions. They're bringing better equipment to the front. And, of course, they're mobilizing about 350 to 400,000 troops. There's only so much Ukraine can do on its own, and unless we supply them with the weapons and the equipment to be able to hold the Russians and then defeat them, Ukrainians are going to be hard put to it to hold the line.
Well, they are going to get tanks, aren't they? The Leopard tanks in particular, which are thought to be probably one of the best tanks that they need at the moment. They've apparently got a range of 300 miles. They can hit a target 3 miles away, and they are very economical on fuel. So all of those things together make them really pretty good for the fight that they're going to be involved in. But we're hearing that there's going to be a lag before they're delivered and then a further lag while the troops are trained how to use them. I mean, is that going to really hamper when they start to try and beat this new offensive that the Russians are planning?
Angela, you're absolutely right. One of the biggest problems is these tanks, and there's quite a variety of them, of course. It's not just the Leopard. There's our own Challenger 2. There's the American Abrams. They all come with their own supply and maintenance train. I think the Ukrainians will learn pretty quickly how to use them. But I think the key point is there's only 200 of them. They need much more in the way of artillery, armour and, of course, combat aircraft as well. One of the criticisms that was laid against the Russians last year was that they didn't combine their arms, their artillery, their infantry, their tanks and their aviation. If we're not careful, everybody's going to centre on the tanks and not see that there's a much wider capability required by the Ukrainians, not only just to hold the line, but also to go onto the offensive in the south and southeast.